Hello, everybody, and welcome to Unanswered Questions. Sometimes during our live broadcasting to schools, we just don't get enough time to answer all the amazing questions from students. So here we're going to answer some of the unanswered top upvoted questions we didn't get to. And this is going to be questions from January and February because it's 2025.
Pretty cool. And my apologies right up front. I got a little bit of a cough going on, so I apologize now.
First question. What do I do if someone says really inappropriate stuff about another person?
I'm going to let you have that one.
Yeah, sure. Well, it's,
Yeah, sure.
Well, no, well, yeah, sure. Thank you for the question. But it's going to happen. It's going to be about, is that a person who you know? Well, you're probably going to want to stick up for your friend. So perhaps, screen capturing it, letting a friend know, here's what what's going on. If it's a rando person saying something else inappropriate about another rando, unfortunately, that just happens way too often that honestly your best case scenario is just to block, remove, and delete. If it's someone at your school, related to your school, things change there a bit, but best to create the experiences you want to have on the internet. So you might want to just limit yourself to your friends who you know, where less likely that stuff's going to happen. How can I help if someone else is in need of help?
I'll take that one. I mean, here's my cough. Sometimes, the old saying is you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. And sometimes you'll do whatever you can to help your friend, but they won't take your offers, right? So one of the things I say to young people and even adults is that sometimes being a best friend means that you may have to make a very difficult choice. And that choice is, especially if you're concerned about self-harm or suicide and they don't want to seek help themselves, then it may be important for you to seek out somebody else who can help, because there's only so much a teen can do. And eventually there may come a point in time where an adult has to step in to deal with the issue. So sometimes you have to get the adult involved. Even though your friend may not want that to happen, it is the best thing to do. And it's been our experience that, is your friend going to be mad at you for doing that? Well, the honest answer is, yeah, probably. However, in all the students who did it, in the end, because you got to remember, when a person is in a state where they're not thinking clearly, especially when it comes to issues surrounding self-harm and suicide, they're not thinking clearly. And so as a result of that, sometimes they need a friend like you who is thinking clearly. You get them the help that they need. And one of the things that we've clearly heard from students who've done or taken our advice on this is they've reconnected with us and said, you know what, you were right there. My friend was really mad at me at the time, but just recently they came forward and said, thank you. I wasn't thinking clearly at the time, and I'm so happy you did. And that's what friendship is all about, right?
Yeah.
So
what happens when someone pretends to be another person when they're really not actually that person?
I'll give that to you.
Sure. Well, people lie all the time on the internet. Good people do and bad people do. So you're never going to know who someone really is. Now, if you do detect going, hey, this person doesn't seem who they're trying to pretend to be, it's going to depend on the situation. I mean, if they are intentionally trying to trick you, harass you, ask you for inappropriate things or do inappropriate things, like those are handled much differently than, okay, I found that this person's fake. Okay, your best case scenario, block, remove, delete. If they're actively trying to harm you in any way, you record what they're doing, seek someone who can help you get out of that situation, and maybe hold that person accountable if they are, say, breaking the law, committing a crime. Yeah. But if it's just some rando who's just using a fake name, fake photo, and maybe it's to somebody else. Now, if it's a friend of yours they're trying to pretend to be, let your friend know, and now they can take action against that.
Or if that person's trying to pretend to be you, depending upon the situation, it could cross over into criminality.
Yeah.
Specifically on issues such as identity theft or defamation, right? So again, it's going to depend upon the context.
Yep. What do I do if I'm being cyber harassed, but also participated by becoming friends with a random person on the internet?
Go for it, dude.
Ooh, let me try and understand that question. That's a big question. If I'm being cyber harassed, but also participated by becoming friends with a random person.
So I guess.
Oh, so you friended a rando and now they're the ones harassing you?
That's what I think. That's
Yeah,
what I read.
that makes sense. For me, I would say the best case scenario is block, remove, and delete, depending on how serious that harassment is becoming. If they're just being a little bit mean or a little bit rude, yeah, blocking, removing, deleting solves most issues. Now, if they come back for more or they're doing something much more serious, record them and report them.
Now, the other thing I found too, Brandon, is if the person becomes Machiavellian in nature, in other words, they get their kicks out of just the fact that they know they're annoying you, sometimes blocking and deleting them may play right into their hands. So just ignoring it sometimes works as well. Like I've worked with a couple of clients where they said they were blocking, deleting, but these guys would just create new accounts and re-engage. And I said, well, instead of blocking and deleting them, let's just ignore it and see what happens. And guess what? They ignored it. And the person went away because they didn't take the bait, because the other person was getting their kicks out of the fact that they were causing the person to do things, right? So just another technique that we can utilize, right?
Right. Kind of like a scam caller where if you just don't pick up the phone, that's probably better than having to pick up the phone and then answer.
Or you know what I do? It makes me laugh all the time. I get the callers, trying to sell us something, and I go, hello, hello, hello. Can't hear, hello, right? And then they just hang up and I don't get a phone call back.
Yeah. Uh-huh. You know what's worked for me on those ones? And hey, I'm with Bell, and we have a cell phone promotion offer for it. I go, yeah, great. This is a business phone. I don't have any contract control over it. Oh, okay. Hang up.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, ha, gotcha.
Gotcha.
Yeah. All right. What do I do if someone threatens to swat me on Minecraft?
So what's swatting, Brandon?
Swatting is when someone knows your home location and then they will make a police phone call, 911, make some bogus response saying they maybe were walking by your house, maybe saw a weapon, maybe someone was being held hostage, or some pretty significant danger situation they're going to make up in order to get a significant police response, generally an armed police response,
like a SWAT team.
Like a SWAT team, in order to get into that house and deal with the supposed emergency. But it was all fake.
Yeah, swatting is illegal in Canada, and we've had some great cases now where teens and adults who were swatting other teens and adults have been arrested and charged and convicted for it.
Yeah, sure. Calling the police number and not thinking you're not being tracked.
Exactly.
Yeah. So if they're threatening that, record them and report it accordingly. How should I deal with a situation if someone asks for something like a bad picture? They're probably talking about a nude here.
Yeah, I think so.
Or threatens me but deletes it before I can record the proof. Fair enough.
So how should I deal with a situation if someone asks for something like a bad picture or threatens me, but deletes it before I can record?
Yeah, and I think that's because in our presentations and our broadcasting, we really advocate to take evidence or screenshots, because a lot of apps now have built-in tools to delete messages that I've sent to you off of your phone.
Right.
So, you want to report something and you open the app, oh, it's gone.
Right.
So should you still report it? Yes. Are you always going to get the help you deserve if you don't have the proof? Perfectly honest. Maybe yes. Maybe no.
Yeah, it's going to be real difficult.
Does it make it easier if you have the proof going, here's what they said to me? Yes, it makes it much easier, but you should still report it, because it doesn't mean nothing can be done. It means it might be more challenging to get something done.
Yeah, and depending upon the seriousness of the crime, although it may have disappeared off of your device, it may still be on the server of the social media platform that is using it. So if law enforcement serves a production order or search warrant, it may still be there, depending upon the app, right, that's being used. So
what if someone blackmails me and I give them money, but they send fake bad stuff and everyone believes them? Ooh.
Still legal.
Yeah.
Right. What, somebody blackmail me and you give them money because they're blackmailing, even if it's fake, it's still blackmail. It's still intimidation. It's still, it's illegal, right? It is illegal to do that.
Yeah. How do do you feel about Roblox voice chat? I've been bullied on Roblox drama.
I'll let you do that.
Well, yeah. So Roblox, like many online games, will have voice features. Now, to use the Roblox voice feature, you have to like verify your age, 13 plus, etc., etc. Now, Roblox does have recording features built in for safety, but if you're on a game, doesn't have to be Roblox, but any game with a voice chat enabled, you have to ask yourself, are you going to be okay with anyone potentially saying anything to you? Do you have the mental fortitude to handle almost anything someone might say to you? If not, probably not something you want to engage in. So I like with Roblox, you can turn that off. So I'd say turn that off unless you're playing with your friends who you know and who are less likely going to be doing mean, rude things to you.
And another way to control that too, or to minimize that from happening, is if you have your own Roblox server that you're controlling. Right?
Yeah, your own Roblox sort of like world that you create, you manage.
Yeah.
Why do you think people who are being cyberbullied still do not push the block button even when being bothered?
Go for it, dude.
Well, there's a couple reasons. We've had some students message us and they didn't know where the block button was. That's happened before.
Yeah,
so
some of these platforms make it hard to find.
It's usually like a couple button presses, and every platform is going to be a bit different. So some students in younger grades haven't really had many discussions about what the block button is or what it does. It's not like that's taught in school.
Yep.
There's no curriculum for the block button.
Sure there is. It's us.
Yeah, there's us.
It's us.
That's what we're doing. So that's one reason. For older students, one of the reasons can be, depending on the relationship to the person who's being mean and rude, it could be because if they block them, the person's going to notice that and see that. When they go to your profile, it says, hey, you've been blocked.
Yep.
That potentially could cause other issues in a interpersonal, in-person relationship that they want to avoid, which again, I understand why that is, but in our experience, if someone is being mean and rude on the internet and you know them, they're probably also being mean and rude to you in person as well.
For sure. And the research supports that fact.
So I think you have to address the situation of if this person is worthy of being a friend or not, and probably not. And some people might want to avoid uncomfortable situations with either acquaintances or friends. Yeah, some people want to just have everyone like them, and is a reason why people might not use that block button, even though you should be doing that, and everyone should be respectful if you block someone, no matter what the reason is. Yeah,
for sure.
What are gaming apps you should not go into?
I think that's dependent upon who's playing the game. It's going to differ from person to person. I mean, most games have the ESRB ratings, like M for mature, E for everyone, A for adult. Like if you're 14, you shouldn't be going into A for adult type programs, right? Like, so that's going to differ from user to user.
I would say for if you're gaming, make sure you're using a game that's well supported, that a lot of people use, that has a lot of safety tools built in, that you can privatize your account. You can party up with only the friends that you know. Games that limit you on voice chat, right? There are things you can look for in games that can make some games better than others.
And there's so many, one of the things I've learned from you is there's so many different genres of games out there, right? Like, it's just amazing.
Is Discord safe for kids to use? Kids? The thing about Discord, I love Discord. Discord's great. I am part of many Discord servers. What I like about Discord, it's like the old school internet forums. And Discord is not bombarded with advertisements like all the other social networks. There's not a whole lot of filtering and such, which is at a cost because bad things aren't always filtered out. You do kind of have to rely on each Discord server, their admins and moderators, to really control the content and manage the content in those servers. So could there be servers that are better for kids? Yes, it's going to be server dependent. I can tell you, there are definitely servers that kids should not be going into.
In Discord, yeah.
In Discord. So it's going for kids, probably not. For teens, it's going to be dependent on, who they're connecting to, what they're saying, and what groups they're actively engaging with. Because
And,
not every group you want to
and
engage
again,
with.
creating your own Discord server, right?
Yeah.
So that you can control it. But one of the things I always say to parents, because we always get that from parents, is this app good or bad? It's not the app; it's how people use the app.
Yep.
Right. That can make it good or bad. So.
Is Messenger Kids safe for kids, or is it something that kids should not have?
We now know that Meta, the way they make their money is by
data collection,
right? So when people think safety, they think pedophiles, predators, that kind of stuff. I think another thing that we're pushing is it's also about privacy safety, right? So when you're using a messenger like Messenger Kids with Meta, it's like any other tool. You can either use it for good or for bad, but no matter how you're using it, Meta's still collecting that data, digitizing it, and selling it to their financial benefit, right?
I will say Messenger Kids does have more like parental tools built in, more kid-focused filters, where like Discord doesn't really have any filters, which some people see as good or bad, depending on where you sit on expression.
I'll go one step further. If you're looking for a good messaging app that is secure, safer, encrypted, and designed with security and safety and privacy by design, Kinzu.
Yeah, that's good. It's family controlled.
It is.
Parents create their own circle.
And they're not collecting metadata and selling it to their financial advantage, right? So it's called Kinzu, Kinzoo. Google it, you'll find it.
How do I know if a creepy guy knows my info on social media and is stalking me? Well, I guess you're not going to know.
That's the thing, right? You won't know until they decide they're going to pull the curtain.
Yeah. So when it comes to that, a lot of people try to think, oh, someone knows my address. That's like a super bad, terrible thing. Honestly, in today's world, it's not really all that private.
It was never private in my days without the internet. We used to have this thing called a phone book. So unless your phone number was unlisted, the person's name, the street, you could find the address, right?
Yeah.
It was there.
Or given the amount of data leaks that happen, how many websites have user data gets leaked and spread on the internet, it's not that difficult to find information about people. The challenge is, what is someone doing with that information? If someone is actively stalking you, if they are making threats about you because they have information about you and they're using that to make those threats, now we got an issue. But if someone just says, hey, I know you live at 123 Sesame Street. Okay.
Near? Far.
Like, you didn't make a threat. You're being creepy, but being creepy doesn't, break the law.
Yeah.
So people think, oh, they know my IP address or my address. It's like.
And when they do let you know, it now can become tech facilitated violence, right? And we've helped several clients, both adults and teens, because they've released too much information about who they are, and now they're being targeted for whatever reason online. That's where we can now get involved to help.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah. Knowing information about you that's personal can lead to bigger issues. And, you'd want to stop that in the first place.
Right. Minimize the amount of information you're putting in. We, especially when we say for students under grade 10, 10 and under, it's all about privacy, right? Once you get into grades 11 and 12, we're changing the mindsets a little bit, because now when it comes to educational job opportunities, sometimes having people search you out, the ability for you to be searchable can be an advantage, right? But even then, you want to be careful about not putting too much personal information out there, like your address.
Yep.
Right?
Has a hacker ever tried to hack you? Well, we have pretty good security here in the studio. Now, for me, as someone who's been gaming since the beginning of online gaming, like, sure, I've had old gaming accounts of mine hacked, not because I made a mistake, but the gaming company didn't have good security on their servers.
It happened to us when you were younger, like you were maybe 2 or 3 years old.
Yeah.
Where a hacker used our internet connection to hack into a university. And then once they were done, they backed out and they digitally erased their tracks and nuked our system. Mm-hmm. So, but that happened before this became really popular, right?
Yeah.
And we put those. So yeah, it happened to us, but like 33 years ago kind of thing. So.
Can a hacker get into your account without asking you anything? Yeah, so the common way hackers get in is that they make a fake login page, they send it to you, and you think it looks real. You type in your username and password, they get in that way. Now, hackers can still log in if they have your password. Now, how would they get your password without asking you for the password? Well, I guess the main way would be possibly like a data breach. So maybe an account that you signed up with on some random website. They didn't have good security. Hacker stole the passwords from the users. And if you're someone who happens to use the same password all the time, then
That doesn't happen.
Yeah, of course not. Who would ever do that? People do all the time.
All the time.
So that would be the most common way someone would hack into an account without asking you or tricking you for that password. What if someone hacks into my account, says weird stuff, and then I get my account back? That's a toughie.
So where I see this happening, I've dealt with this a couple of times, where you're involved in a relationship, you break up with your partner, your partner gets so mad, so jilted that what do? They go into your social media platforms. Why? Because you shared your passwords with them as a form of trust or a form of love. And now what do? They go in and post horrible, evil, ugly things, and then you change your password. You can't get in to take it down. And now everybody thinks it's you, when in fact it's your ex-jilted partner. Now what you're going to do is and at that point in time, if you can, now you can report it to whatever platform is an account takeover. You'll be required to get it back. Often what they're now asking you for is some type of photo ID to prove you are who you are. So one of the things I recommend is when you're sending that, redact any kind of information that's not needed, like your address, the driver's license number, or other kind of stuff. All they need to see is your face and your picture. But once you get your account back, then delete everything. And then the other thing, Brandon, is, you push this a lot, is saying to young people, because a lot of these times when these accounts are being taken over by others, the owner of the account didn't have two-factor authentication in place.
Yep. That can be
what does two-factor authentication do?
Basically, if someone's trying to log into your account with some new device you haven't authorized previously, they'll be required to submit a text code or a two-factor app code or an email code sent to you in order to verify it is who you are. So yeah, making sure your accounts are double protected with two-factor is a really good strategy. Yes. And if it's an account you do want to preserve and keep, you just gotta take the honesty approach and go, hey everyone, I've been hacked. Give them all the details, make a public apology, and tell everyone what you're going to do better. Like, hey, I've changed my password, enable two-factor to prevent this in the future. You're going to have to take some accountability for that and publicly acknowledge here's what happened.
I mean, what I like about two-factor authentication is really what it does is somebody gets your passcode, it alerts you that somebody's trying to access. In policing, we would call that a clue, which now means immediately change your passcode, right? Because it gives you that heads up, right? So it's kind of like a pre-warning to something bad happening. And I really like that.
Yeah. What happens when you actually catch a hacker? Well, sometimes things that we do as investigators is, we don't have arresting powers.
I don't anymore. I'm retired.
Yeah, true. So sometimes what we do when we work with families and students is we will collect evidence, we will package it up in a nice present, and we go, here, client, here's all the data. You give it to your local police. All the work's done. All they have to do is actually do the final investigation or do the final arrest.
Yeah, usually, I mean, we've done this a couple of times. We give them such a nice package that all they need to do is now serve the search warrant to identify who the person is, and then they go from there, right?
Yeah.
So
So that's sometimes what happens if depending on the situation. Sometimes it's just blocking, removing, deleting.
And let's be honest, I mean, you're not going to catch everybody. No. Some of these guys are really good at what it is. So unlike CSI, where they're able to capture somebody every single time on TV, that may not happen.
Yeah. How can we get stuff back once we have been hacked?
So I see this one a lot, Brandon, where people will connect with us and go, oh my God, Darren, my Instagram account, I've lost control of it. How do I get it back? So share with our viewers why that happens and what you recommend.
It's going to depend. So there's a couple ways how they're going to get in, but I don't want to address that here for this question. But if someone is in your account and you need to get them out of there, what do you do? First off, change your password right away. Generally, when you do that, it requires every logged in device to also issue and enter the new password. So they're not going to know it. Now, the longer someone is in your account, the harder it's going to be to kick them out. And doing a password change may not be significant, may not fix the issue, especially when it comes to an account takeover where someone now reassigns the ownership email no longer to your email, but to their email.
And I'm seeing that happening a lot.
Yeah. So you're trying to go, okay, I got to change my password reset. You don't get the email, they get the email. And they basically have stolen your account and you're locked out.
Yeah.
In that situation, being perfectly honest, is that solvable? Not very likely. In some cases, some social networks will allow you to submit your photo ID to verify who you are and regain your access, but that can take months. They may not even actually take your case on. And
the other challenge too, Brandon, with what's going on right now with social media platforms in the US, where a lot of these things are based, they're getting rid of a lot of their people who help people with this stuff.
Yeah.
They're turning to bots that just aren't going to be able to help you.
Yeah.
So it's becoming really, really hard. And that's just the honest truth.
Yeah. Maintaining ownership of your accounts are so important nowadays.
And that's why dealing with it at the front end to make sure that you're locking it down as best as you can is, I mean, the newest one that I'm seeing, it's not new, it's been around for a while, where they'll get a message from a friend going, hey, can you help me out? I lost control. Can you send me this link that I'm about to send you? And they click on it because they think it's a real friend because it looks like it, because their account was taken over. They then click it and then they take over the account, change the password or the email address. So
is it difficult to make code? Well, to actually make a whole coding language is going to be very difficult. Now to actually
ChatGPT.
Well, I don't think ChatGPT actually makes a whole new language, but I think ChatGPT can help you actually code in a language. So it's, you have to take time and effort to learn the basics, but it's not impossible to code. It depends on how complex you want your project to be.
I still say to young people, like, if you're a person who likes to code, like C++, Python, HTML, stick with it. There's a big pot of gold at the end of the rainbow right now. Like coders are needed big time. And I think the going rate right now in Canada for a coder to start is between $65,000 to $70,000 a year. Pretty good chunk of change, right? So stick with it.
Why do some apps ask if they're allowed to track you?
They have to do it by law.
Sometimes they do. Sometimes laws require that. Sometimes your actual device, be it Apple or Android, actually put limitations. So before an app can track you, you have to actually give them consent to do that. So sometimes there's laws. Sometimes it's your device trying to protect you.
Yeah, like especially in the Apple store, right? Like
Yeah.
they're pretty stringent on that issue. So.
Yeah, any app that wants to access your location GPS chip, you will get a prompt going, hey, this app wants to, it might not be the actual app asking you, it's your phone letting you know, hey, do you want to grant them permission?
I mean, it is amazing. I wrote an article on this a couple of months ago it is amazing to see how many apps are tracking you and devices that track you as well. Like your car is a good example. I just read an article today that a driver of a brand new vehicle, first time it's being reported out, where they received an advertisement on their inboard screen system. Yeah.
Gross.
Yeah. And I know that a major dealership in the United States who builds cars, not going to mention who, they actually applied for a patent to allow them to do exactly that. Right. So depending upon where you're driving, they can use the beacons to figure out, oh, you're driving by a McDonald's. Boop, all of a sudden you get something popping up on your phone screen, your in-car system saying, hey, drive in here and you'll get a 20% discount. Like it's unbelievable to see what's going on right now.
Yeah. Or on your driving map app, which businesses pop up. Yeah, because they're paying for that space. Yeah. Do you think the data of an ordinary civilian is not important to a social network? Well,
Do you think the data of an ordinary civilian is not important to the network?
Well, it is important.
It is.
Every person on a network using a social network or a program is a customer, is a client, is a data point that they use to sell advertising or marketing or whatever. So yeah, an individual person might only be worth a couple bucks.
But it's still a set of eyes, right?
Yeah.
And that's the thing, right? Like these companies are trying to capture attention and eyes. Access to the eyes means that it gives companies the better ability to market their products to a greater audience.
And an ordinary person in high school today, in the future, might be a predominant politician. So all that data that was meaningless, 20 years ago, now today can be, ooh, that's a lot of good stuff, right? So, yeah. What is a safe way to store multiple passwords?
Go for it, dude.
Well, your phones will have built-in keychains or lockers. I mean, Apple has the Apple Keychain or the Apple Password app. Google has the Google Chrome Password Manager. There are third-party ones, LastPass, they got 1Password that all do a pretty good job. So using a dedicated password manager.
What's the one you use?
I will use the app because most of my devices are Apple. So I have the Apple one, and I'm liking what 1Password does. So that's what I recommend.
There you go.
If you delete Snap, does it actually delete?
So I'll have you answer that one. No, in fact, they say right in their terms of service that although it looks like it disappears off of your phone, the person you sent it to, it's still there. And people like law enforcement may still have access to it. Now, over time, any pictures you sent can be deleted, but the metadata of what and who was using it will still be stored on Snapchat servers.
Does TikTok steal your info?
Yes.
Well, here's the thing. Does it steal it? No, because in their terms of service,
good point.
You consented.
Yeah.
When you download the app and you got all that legal text and you go, okay, is it stealing if someone asks you, hey, can I take your car? Yeah, sure. You can take my car. Great. It's not stealing.
Yeah. I think does TikTok record your information or take your information or covertly record your information? Yes.
Covert because they told you about it.
That's true.
Right?
The other thing is how many people actually read the terms of service? Everybody just scrolls on accept.
Yeah.
Right. But that's a good point, right? Like stealing means there's usually no consent. And so as a result of that, if all of a sudden you consent to do it, technically, is it stealing legally? Probably not. But they are collecting your private information.
If you don't like that, don't use it. Simple as that. Would TikTok get banned in Canada like how the US is considering doing?
No, it's not banned in Canada it could. I mean, the Canadian government could implement, probably not likely going to happen. There's this big to-do that, oh my God, the Canadian government ordered Snapchat out of the country. Well, they just shut down the 2 offices in Toronto TikTok, in Vancouver and Toronto.
Do video games use personal information? Yeah, they can be. It depends. I mean, if you're playing a browser-based game, it's going to know little about you, like your IP address. If you're signing up to play a game on Xbox, PlayStation, Steam, Epic, whatever, well, then yeah, you have an email attached to there. You have a username, an IP address, which is all needed in order to play the game. So yeah, they do use personal information. Even when your social media apps are set to private, is there a way to make sure they do not have your information?
Not if you hit that accept button.
Yeah. Right? I mean, what some people will do is they will maybe put in fake information when they sign up for it. That is a strategy, but that's probably not going to be a network going to be professionally using. So maybe you want to play a game, you don't want to give them your info, you could use fake information, but the chance of you being banned or if you get kicked off to recover is going to be pretty difficult. You could sign up using a VPN, using fake information, using a fake email, but that's just labor intensive. So it's possible, unlikely.
To reduce, but not prevent.
Yeah.
Some great questions on that privacy thing, by the way.
What if you send a nude and it was a long time ago? Would you still get in trouble?
If you're the person who sent it, probably not if it was sent with consent. If you're a person who has it on your phone. So a really good example, we've had teens ask us, well, Darren, what happens when we were younger? We were dating one another. We consensually shared an intimate image within that relationship, which is not illegal in Canada, but we break up and a couple of years later, all of a sudden I'm 18, I'm now an adult and I still have that picture and I didn't delete it. Could I get in trouble? Well, we've spoken to lawyers and there's no case law on this, but both defense and criminal or crown counsels have said to us, probably illegal, delete it.
It hasn't been tested yet.
No case law, right?
Yeah. So is there a potential risk? Yes. And it's going to depend where you live. If you live in the United States, more southern states, well, then it's a very different conversation. So it's going to depend where you live, where you travel, etc., etc. It's very complicated, especially when you integrate nudes and technology. It just gets very messy.
In countries and states.
Yep. What could someone do if their nude photos got sent out?
Go for it.
Well, a couple things you want to do is obviously report immediately to get them taken down. There are government-funded takedown services, websites, organizations. Canada has a few. The U.S. has a few. There are some organizations that work with law enforcement to digitize, codify images that go on all major social networks to look for those images that are reposted and take them down right away.
You're acting in Canada and take it down in the United States.
Yep. So you got to reach out immediately to get them taken down. Depending on where you live, you might have additional legal opportunities. Like here in British Columbia, you have the Intimate Image Protection Service that can assist you and walk you through. For free. You can make an online application to an online court, basically, to have a legal order to have images taken down, seek damages up to $5,000. So you're going to need to actually reach out, ask for help, and understand what resources are available to you in your particular region.
And so anybody who's watching this right now who falls into that category, reach out to us for help. Like that's one of the things that we do is we provide a service where we provide you with the links and resources for you on what to do now to help minimize the risks of these things spreading and how to get them taken down.
Yep. And afterwards, we often recommend, hey, if this person's targeting you with your name, use a Google Alerts lookout to see, hey, if your name pops up on the internet, you might get a notification to be more proactive. What if someone sends a nude when you didn't want it? Well, that could be indecent communications.
Yeah.
There's a law around that.
And if the person's under the age of 18 and it was a picture of their own private part, that could be the distribution of child sexual abuse material.
Yeah.
Right.
So yeah, I would say for that person to report them immediately.
Yeah, we get this a lot where high school girls especially keep telling us that, Darren, you got to help us because these guys, they just keep sending us dick pics all the time, right? Like scuds, and we're not wanting, they're just doing it. It's almost as if we have to accept that fact. No, you don't. You don't have to accept the fact. Them doing that is illegal, right?
Yep.
So it's illegal in Canada.
Yeah, and thankfully for that, in most places, generally it is. If someone asks for a bad picture, what should I do other than record the evidence? Well, report it, right? Seek someone who can help you and guide you to make that person stop. Now, if that's not doable, if you so choose not to go down that route, we recommend you do. But if you don't want to do that, then it is a block and delete.
Yeah, and we also have a tool. It's called No, It's Rude to Ask for a Nude tool. It's an image that if somebody's asking you, send it to them instead. It clearly says that no, and no is a complete sentence. There's no room for negotiation. It's rude to ask for a nude. And P.S. I've screen captured your message to me as evidence, right? Because when the police get involved, not to do that, it comes down to he said, she said, she said, she said, he said, he said. So by sending this image that we've designed to the person who's doing it, it creates that data trail that helps law enforcement deal with the issue.
Is it illegal to put someone's nude on a piece of clothing consensually? Wait, so someone gives you permission to put their own nude image on your t-shirt as like a stained image, but they consent for you to do that? Well, okay. Well, I've never dealt with that.
They could I'm going to spitball this one legally. Is it illegal for the person to do that? No, but the person who's got the nude on their shirt, if all of a sudden they're now walking in public and that nude is of somebody under the age of 18, you are now technically distributing child sexual abuse material. You're producing it. You're showing it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
At that point in time. So even if the person has consensually sent it to you, and you know the person's under the age of 18, you can't take it, put on your shirt publicly and walk around, because you're now basically distributing child sexual abuse material.
Making it accessible, etc. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. So I think it's illegal, right? I think there's an argument there.
I don't know, but could a court rule on anything? Possibly, but I would think it's most likely that would be a big no-no.
I agree.
I don't see in what judge would rule that would be okay.
I agree.
Could they? Maybe. I don't see that.
It's amazing some of the questions we get on these.
I love the questions. Is it illegal to use an app like Clothing Off or other type of AI nudifying app to make intimate images in a consenting relationship?
Only if it's consensual.
Oh, I don't know. I've never seen that in a case law in a court.
No,
because the Supreme Court, at least here in Canada, said must be consensual and private. But now you give that to a third party.
but that's not what they're saying there, right? Is it illegal to use an app like Close Off or whatever?
But you have to send the app. You have to send the image to the app to process.
Right, but if the person consensually allows you to do that,
Yeah.
right? Now, if they don't give you consent to do that and you do it without their consent, that could become a problem, right? But if they consensually sent you the picture and said to you, yeah, go ahead and nudify it, like what person would do that would be my comment.
Honestly,
right?
I wouldn't trust those apps anyways, right? So you do that and you and your partner agree to do that for whatever reason, is there a risk that you might be, because some of these apps are using crypto to take payments. So, I mean, I don't know, that seems a little suspicious to me.
And what's interesting is the student who wrote that is an app, Close Off, right? Yeah. So they've, and we don't mention that app by name in our training. So that tells me they've seen it, right?
Yeah. It's not worth the risk, because if it does get leaked, does get out there, that's the whole other issue. I wouldn't trust the app to keep your images private in the first place. And could there be legal challenges with that? Probably, possibly. So I'd probably avoid that. Can I ask someone to delete an image, but wouldn't that image still exist somewhere on a platform I use to send it? Wouldn't deletion be a useless action? Well, okay, so let's assume let's assume the image in question is a nude image. I think that's mostly when people ask those questions, are usually around that. Wouldn't it be a useless action? It depends on the platform. So some platforms, when you delete something on the app, it is deleted on the server. Now, sometimes they're archived, sometimes they're held in stasis for a certain amount of time, but eventually things typically do get deleted eventually. Is there a possibility the image might resurface? Potentially, it is a possibility, but it's unlikely that a social network running a platform are going to be, if they have access to a nude image you send because it's on their servers, they're probably not going to be sharing or distributing that. It's more so protecting you from the person that you were drawing your consent from that you think is a risk of sharing and sending your nude.
And the whole goal here is to try and get it down as quickly as possible, right? That's the goal. Let's get it down so it's not publicly accessible. Yeah, that's the goal. So it's not a useless action because, again, it reduces harm.
Okay.
We get this one a lot.
This is a different take on it, though.
Oh.
What age can I legally sell feet pictures? That's a good question. I don't know. Well, okay, so we have a whole article. I think we have a video on it as well.
Article and video.
On like feet pictures. Can you sell them? I mean, probably.
Depends upon the country.
But
we'll talk about Canada.
Canada. I mean, feet pictures itself aren't illegal. Nope. Like people can sell feet pictures. Now, I don't know. What age can you start that at?
Well, a lot of these platforms, if you're under the age of 13, you technically you can't join them. You're in violation in terms of service.
There we go.
But I don't think under Canadian law, just because you're 12 doesn't mean you can't sell your feet pictures, right? But
I don't know. When it comes to like banks and PayPal and such, I think there's like age limits, right?
Well, that's the terms of service, right?
Yeah.
But that doesn't make it illegal, right?
Yeah.
So they said legally.
Honestly, I don't know the banking system in Canada in terms of when you can open a bank account and when you can, accept payments.
But here's what a lot of teens don't know about selling stuff online, be it feet pictures or maybe you're a streamer from Revenue Canada, that it doesn't matter what age you are.
Yeah.
If you're selling stuff online and getting paid for it, you got to claim it. right? Like you've got firsthand experience in understanding this with respect to you need to claim it on your taxes, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
It's taxable income.
and why is this important? Because if all of a sudden you're selling feed pictures, like say you're 14 selling feed pictures, although it may not be illegal, if you're not claiming the income and then somebody lets Revenue Canada know that you've made all this money doing this stuff, trust me, they're going to come knocking on your door. And I would rather have the police come after me than Revenue Canada coming after me, because they're going to want their pound of flesh. Like they don't care if you're whatever you're selling, they just want their money that they're due, right? So, and a lot of teens in Canada don't know that.
Yeah. So what can we do if we receive child sexual abuse material without our consent so we don't get charged with accessing material?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So someone just sends you a nude picture of someone under the age of 18. You go, ah, well, delete it right away.
I think just before you delete it, I would always recommend bring it to the attention of an adult. If you screen capture, because sometimes an adult, like if you bring it to the attention of a teacher can't look at it because technically they're breaking the law. So I would recommend screen capture it and then immediately report it to the police.
Oh,
right?
Because, but is screen capturing the best thing to do there?
Well, it might be, because again, it's as long as you're turning it into the police forthwith, you're not breaking the law at that point in time, right? However, if you screen capture it and keep it on your phone for days, that's an issue.
Gotcha. Okay.
So that's where it becomes, because like you say, if they don't screen capture it, some people may be able to go, oh, let's delete this remotely, and now they don't have the evidence anymore, right?
Yeah.
So that's why I say screen capture it, but immediately report it to the principal, the parent, who will then notify the police. And then once the police involved, you can say, okay, because the police will be able to see it. They're allowed to look at it because they have an exemption of the criminal code for that kind of stuff, for investigations. But you have the evidence. But if you screen capture and just keep it on your phone, because you got an issue.
Yeah.
Legally.
Do you deal with cases when someone's getting bullied in real life?
Yeah, the answer is yes, but
less so.
I mean, the answer is yes, but it depends upon, because you did a really good job many years ago about separating rude, mean, and disturbing behavior from criminal type of behavior, because people had a habit of taking any type of behavior they didn't like and putting into this bucket and calling it bullying, which kind of, I think, disempowers the word. So I think what's important is a lot of the stuff that comes into us, one of the reasons we don't get involved is because when you look at it, it's rude, mean, or disturbing. Where we get involved is where it crosses over into the criminality.
Yeah.
Right.
And generally when people have online issues, often the person might be someone you know in real life, and they're also doing things aggressing you in person as well. So often they're related. What countries can criminals be taken down by Canadian cops or officials?
The honest answer to that is Canada only. However, they can still work with law enforcement in other countries, like Nigeria is a good example. Yep. The RCMP worked with the Nigerian law enforcement where they arrested 2 individuals who were responsible for sextortion that took place here in British Columbia, where a young high school boy took his life by suicide.
Their police did.
Their police did. It's just our police department, or the RCMP, worked with them. But when it comes to the actual investigation, the actual arrest, it will be the police of the jurisdiction.
Yeah. Now, in some places, in some countries that Canada's worked with, they've flown someone into Canada to face criminal justice. So there are some strategies, but it's not like a Canadian police officer can go.
So a good example, we don't have an extradition. That's the word you were looking for. We didn't have an extradition agreement with Nigeria, so we couldn't get him extradited here to Canada. However, the police could go there to work with the Nigerian police, who arrested, charged, convicted, and this guy's now doing 100 years in jail as a result of that in Nigeria. So
yeah.
But that's one of the reasons why, like, if somebody comes up in the Canada U.S. law enforcement with a badge and says, yes, I'm with the FBI, do they have power of arrest here in Canada? Unless they've been deputized by Canadian law enforcement, no. But that's why U.S. border, but what's happening now between Canada and the United States is they are kind of doing that now, where I know that Coast Guards is a good example in the Navy, is that they will have both countries on the same boat, and each one of them have arrest powers and that kind of stuff. So, but usually law enforcement can only effect an arrest within the country of jurisdiction.
Yeah. What are your issues with Canada's current internet laws? Honestly, I think they're pretty good. We just don't have enough investigators to deal with all the issues. Like anything bad, like illegal that could happen on the internet is generally covered in our criminal code.
Yeah, we were waiting for case law. Like I remember, 8-10 years ago, we kept hearing people go, "We need more laws," and we kept arguing, "No, we got enough laws. We just need the courts to make ruling to get case law." I think if there's any criticism I have is that maybe we need to tighten up some of the definitions, i.e., when it comes to digitally created or deep fakes. I think that we can tighten up that a little bit more in the legislation.
Yep.
But we currently have laws to deal with most of this stuff. We were just waiting for case law to click in.
Yep. Why did hacking start? Well, I guess hacking in the old days, that wasn't intentionally malicious. It was just people taking things apart to learn how they work. That's like traditional hacking.
And let's stick it to the man, right? Like that's
true. Yeah, or using something in a way it wasn't intended. Now, I think in the modern era, the term is really taken a different meaning to mean an aggressor trying to break into your system.
I mean, a really good example of that, Brandon, this is before your time, but payphones, a lot of kids will, what are those, right? And phone booths and that kind of stuff. One of the original hacks was this guy that created a little box that pushed, it made the same sounds as when you're putting quarters and nickels in, and you would hold it up to the phone and it would register. Now you can use the phone, right?
Yeah. Phone phreaking, I think.
Yeah, phone phreaking,
Yeah, that was what, Mitnick?
Yeah.
So why did it start? Well, just interest in people just being curious. And I think today, when it comes to like the malicious hacker, it's about just making money.
I mean, teens kind of do it already, right? Like a really good example is there's all this, software out there to try and prevent them from going to these internet sites. So they're trying to figure out ways to get around that. Well, that's a type of hacking, right? Like that's what it is. There's a challenge. Let's see if we can meet the challenge, right?
Yep. How effective is DuckDuckGo?
Pretty effective.
It's pretty good. It searches most websites and gives you the search results you're looking for.
They actually have their own server now, which is kind of cool, like the browser. So they have their own DuckDuckGo browser, just like the Brave browser, Firefox browser. So it's privacy led. And DuckDuckGo, one of the benefits to the search of DuckDuckGo is unlike Google search, they're not collecting where it is you're going, what you're doing, and selling it to people. I love DuckDuckGo.
Is using ChatGPT for school illegal? Well, okay. Could you use ChatGPT in illegal ways that breaks a criminal law? Potentially. Now, in school, because they're using it for academics, that would most likely fall under your academic ethics. So not necessarily breaking the law, but it might be against the rules of your school, depending on what your rules state.
Yeah, I mean, a good example is one of the things we hear from teachers all the time is they give a book report out to do, and rather than do that, kids go into ChatGPT and go, write me a book report at a middle school level on Catcher in the Rye, right? And boop, prints out and turns it.
Yeah.
All form of plagiarism, right? So that's not illegal, but it may be breaching a school policy on the issue.
Yeah. Is there a way to get free V-Bucks on Fortnite? Well, sure. If you are on the free battle pass, you get a couple hundred V-Bucks every season as you progress through the free battle pass. Now, is there like websites you can get free V-Bucks with? Very unlikely. I haven't seen anything. Typically, websites that say, hey, free V-Bucks is generally going to be a scam. Might get you to log in with your Epic account to steal your account or scam you and steal your V-Bucks. Now, I've yet to see any good, legitimate, real, authentic, free V-Buck website.
But it's free, man. It's free.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Is it safe to play games on the back of airplane ride seats? Yeah. Some airplanes now on the screen.
Oh, right.
You got games you can play.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see anything wrong with that.
No. As long as you're not plugging in any personal information that they may be asking for, right?
Yeah.
So, no, I don't see.
How many times have you been scammed?
I haven't.
Like I've said previously, I've had some online games of mine hacked because the servers were bad, but that's really about it. All I can recall. When was your most recent case that you investigated?
2 nights ago, another sextortion case. And what made that one unique, it was somebody who identified as female. I mean, we're up to 370 cases now, and only 14 of them were female, right? Identified as female. So yeah, 2 nights ago, for under the age of 18, targeted for sextortion.
When I turn 18, can I work with you?
You can take that one.
We're not actively hiring. We run a very small, tight ship. We work with schools. So there's not a lot of funding for a lot of staff. Could that change? We're hoping in the future. Anything's possible, but yeah, I mean, if you have a skill, a talent in something that helps people in a positive way, not just us, but there are organizations across North America who are looking for skilled and passionate people. Don't have to have a degree, but if you do have a skill in something, it's worth something.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to let you answer the next one.
How did you find this was what you wanted to do as your job? Well, when I was in middle school, I was learning about hacking, breaking computers apart, a bit of coding. So I found an interest in that. And then I liked helping people. I became a tech nerd. I'm a gamer. So I get to help people using technology. And it really just kind of fits quite well what I'm doing here right now.
Yeah, I mean, for me, my first career was law enforcement for 30 years, but then, having a son, you get involved, brought me into this. But what's now really cool is Brandon's actually my boss. He's the CEO of the company, right? I report to him. It's kind of like the circle of life is complete now, right? So, I mean, that it's really cool that, Brandon has created his own businesses. Everything you're seeing here, it's not me, it's him, right?
I'm a very project-oriented person. Yeah. I love getting a project and really getting into it and finding the best ways of doing things. So this entire studio, like, I never saw myself being in like the broadcast recording world. Although that said, when I was younger, I would use my grandparents' old tape recorder video camera to make little movies and like Lego animations. Yeah. So I guess if you look at that in the early days, I had some sort of interest in production, but I never thought of that. It just kind of happened that we go, hey, a cool way to reach students in schools is to do it virtually because it's cheaper. Again, schools don't always have a lot of money. So we want to provide schools with a really effective, clear information at a low cost. And then it just kind of evolved into this massive multi 8-10 camera video input system. What type of PC do you have, and what is your graphics card?
This is all like French to me.
So we stream on a Windows computer, although our work computers are generally MacBooks. We use both models, but we are streaming on a PC. It's running a 4080 right now, and it is on a Threadripper platform because we have so many HDMI inputs that we need to have the threads to handle them all.
What's your graphic card?
4080.
Oh, okay.
It's RTX 4080.
Oh. Is that pretty scoop?
It's pretty good. Yeah, it's pretty good. Although there are AMD has some out now that have more VRAM that I'm looking into.
All I know is that when I walk into his office, it looks like he's got 2 small nuclear power plants in his office.
So. Yeah, they're pretty powerful. But we have many 4K video inputs that need to handle all that. Speaking of, your setup is way better than 90% of gamers. Yeah, okay, so to be fair, our setup isn't designed for gaming. Now, when we're finished broadcasting for the day, before I go home, will I turn on our GPU 4080 and play a couple games here in the studio? Sure, why not?
The answer is yes, not sure he will.
It's not being actively used, so why not give it a try? What happens if someone translates a YouTube video that says don't translate and find something really bad?
I'll let you deal with that.
Oh, so like someone potentially getting bad information or something inappropriate, but they're using a different language so that people who are reviewing it don't detect it? Well, if the video content is in violation of the terms of service, then you report the video. Yeah. There's nothing wrong with you translating a video. There's a reason why we have translators built into our laptops and browsers and such, so we can understand what other people are saying. What do you think about limiting phone usage?
Yeah, I'll talk about that. Primary, I think this is probably about the school issues, right? So I'm actually don't just, it's all about balance. And, every province now in Canada has these new policies. A lot of people are saying they're banning policies. They're not, including here in British Columbia. They're restrictive policies. In other words, should students be allowed to use phones whenever they want in a classroom, listening to music, watching TikTok videos? No, that's distracting. That affects education. However, if a teacher believes that the use of a device, be it a cell phone or a laptop, will aid from an education pedagogy standpoint and assist in creating a more dynamic learning environment, then I'm okay with that. And our policies in most provinces allow teachers to do that. So that's where I stand on this issue. And now, it might be a little different depending upon the school, probably different at the elementary school compared to the high school level, because It's all about digital literacy and maturity issues. But that's where I stand. I mean, I think the issue is that when these things first came out, they're like this new toy and everybody's using them and it's easy to get distracted by them. So we've learned that lesson. So now it's about, okay, how do we throttle it back to the point where teens and adults are now using it, especially when it comes to education, more in an educational standpoint, from a pedagogy standpoint, than using them just to kind of cause interruptions and distractions in class.
Yep, pretty much. Why do you think all these tech issues have become such a problem in our world?
Have they become a problem? I mean, yes, but I mean, it's like anything else. We've written a really cool article where we show, a lot of people are talking about all the bad stuff, but then look at all the good stuff. Look at what you've done, right? Look at what others are doing. Can it cause issues? Sure it can, because social media can become an echo chamber.
Yep.
Especially when it comes to political beliefs and things that maybe aren't politically correct or even criminal in nature. So, I mean, that's one of the issues, right?
Yeah, I think technology just amplifies whatever you input into it. If you're inputting bad things, it's going to amplify it. You input good things, it's going to amplify that as well. Now, I think there are some human biases in that we are designed as people with our brains to pay more attention, to be more attentive to negative things. So I do think there's a human influence here that kind of skews things more to the negative, but that's just a natural human bias. I mean, someone tells you a concerning story, you're going to pay more attention to that, to a more uplifting story.
I mean, look at the case of the group of high school students using AI, figured out how to treat a certain type of brain cancer.
Yeah.
Like students, not a doctor. How cool is that? Right. And then on the flip side of the coin, we got students using AI to deep nudify students and post them publicly and weaponize, which is illegal. So I mean, that's the issue. We take more of a more balanced approach. Like, you got people who say we shouldn't be using this stuff because it's evil and it's going to become, they're going to take over the world. Like what show was it? The Terminator. And then you got people go, well, no, we should just be giving all these kids and even adults unlimited access, free range on all this technology. Well, that's a recipe for disaster. So we're more of a centralist approach in how it is that we believe around technology. And that comes down to digital literacy education. Like, I'm a big believer in that. And we've learned so much over the past several years that we can now share that with young people, right? To kind of get them more digitally literate. Are they still going to make mistakes? Are they still going to come across stuff that they shouldn't be coming across? Yes. But if we're talking about it before it happens, we're minimizing risk, right? Which is really important, and creating agency in our kids, so that, like for families that say to me, well, we have no internet, no technology in the classroom, well, or in our home. Well, great. What happens when they go over to their friend's house for a sleepover and their friends have it? If you're not teaching good digital literacy, you don't think they're going to be using that and maybe going to places and seeing things that they shouldn't be seeing? Absolutely they are.
There's a value proposition there as well, because okay, you're a student in your family, you've had zero tech experience, but now you're in the job market and you're being asked what value you bring to a job. Well, most jobs, especially high paying jobs, there's an expectation of some basic underlying tech experience in order to facilitate that job, to have a competitive advantage in the market. So yeah, we don't want to limit those experiences.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, some good questions.
Well, those are the questions from starting the new year.
Sorry about my coughing.
It'll be a bunch of editing for me.
Yeah, I know.
But those are the questions from January and February of 2025.
Woo!
And we'll see you all next month when we'll have more questions from more students.
Awesome.
We'll see you all again. Bye-bye for now.